This is Mainstream Metaphysics with your host, Nick Newmont.
Good evening. It's another warm Tuesday night in Southern California. Welcome to Mainstream Metaphysics. I'm Nick Newmont, along with Salena Colp joining me. We have a lot of good topics for tonight's show. But before we get into this, I've got to tell you something. You've got to watch Audrey's show tomorrow, because Audrey went to a conference full of all these people who are, let's call them the more inspired news people,
interesting.
And connected with so many people in that genre that Audrey came home just thrilled and is really looking forward. And in principle, a lot of these people have agreed to come on Audrey's show in the weeks and months to come. And what a coup that is for Audrey.
That's
to get
going to
these
be
people.
great.
Yeah, and these are the people that talk about where things are going, what they're going to be like, and the real information. Okay? There's Becca saying, hi, Becca. Thanks for tuning in. And thank you again for watching. And I want to say thank you. We were just talking before the show to last week's guest, Kara Cialio, and more information about the Rasha and ozone therapy. I had a Rasha treatment today, and I love those treatments. I really do. They feel so good, and they're very fascinating experiences. So if you haven't tried the Rasha device yet and what a session is like, get in touch with me and I'll connect you with Kara, because it is really good. It's really good. It's a whole different trip. And then next week, in lieu of the psychic panel that's coming up on July the 13th. I mean, we're just moving on.
Already?
My God. All right. I mean, this week is 4th of July, and it's definitely summer out there, isn't it?
It's
Jeez.
warm. It's warm for sure.
So, next week we are going to do a combination of live and remote with the three ladies that are part of the psychic panel, which we're doing at the Newmont Center at July 13th, which is
so soon,
a week and a half away. Oh my goodness! And then following that, the following week will be my friend and trainer Brandon Fravel, and we'll be talking about how to train in the heat, what to eat, what to drink, what kind of training you should do, what to wear. That's best for training in hot weather like this, because we're officially in summer now.
Yeah,
Woof.
Definitely warm.
It is warm. And please don't tell us it's a dry heat. Doesn't matter. The hot is hot. For goodness sake. It sounds like dry heave. It's a dry heat. Yeah, right. It's like when you're out in Palm Springs this week, it's 120 degrees.
Oh my
Who
gosh.
cares? And I'm serious about that.
That's
Who
warm.
cares if it's humid or dry? I mean, whatever. Now, given the weather, okay, which it is warm, and this type of year and time of year is bug season, okay?
Right, definitely.
So a lot of people in their homes are dealing with fleas, mosquitoes, little critters that are blooming right now.
They're out. They're ready to bite.
They are, and some of us are not ready to be bitten. So of course, this stuff happens. So we want to talk about, in your doTERRA line, preventative measures, but then what do we do if we have been bitten?
Sure. Well, most people get bitten one way or another, So
Or
it's
smitten.
just kind of there. It's just kind of there. And I love to choose natural solutions for my family.
Sure.
And doTERRA is a choice that we've made for a long time now, for about 10 years. And, something like a bug bite can be really annoying. And so our family chooses to use essential oils to handle that. Now, to prevent the bug bite in the first place, you're going to want something like TerraShield, which is an incredible product. I actually have a video posted on my account of Facebook or Instagram where I took the TerraShield, I sprayed it on myself, and then I sat in a cloud of insects, of mosquitoes, in fact, in Alaska. And
You're brave.
Yeah, you could see them surround me, but not land on me or bite me. It was like a little cloud of mosquitoes was around me.
And you used the spray?
And I just used the TerraShield. And
Okay.
so that was a really great remedy for that. You know, if you needed to go a step further, there is, you could add citronella to it. You could add lemon eucalyptus to it, which is another great solution. But yeah, if you're like experiencing, these are lemon eucalyptus is here. If you're experiencing a bug bite because it's too late, you didn't use TerraShield, peppermint, melaleuca, lavender, I like to layer those three on so that you're not itching, scratching, and really, you know, getting that annoyed bug bite feeling.
Right. Now, a question, because I have the, that's tea tree, the TerraShield oil.
Yeah, you could.
Okay.
It's the same thing as the spray bottle. I refill my spray
Okay.
bottle.
So the question is, like for instance, as we've talked about, hi Catherine Glass, good to see you. I got a bunch of bites.
Yeah.
Okay, and I have been using what you've told me to use, but I'm having to layer on a bunch of oil.
Sure.
Would it be better for me to get the spray where I'm just like that?
You know, you could do that to prevent it, but if they've already bitten you, you could put peppermint, lavender, and melaleuca in a spray bottle and dilute it with water even and spray it on your skin.
Okay.
You know, which is great. I have spray bottles of things like that all over for little remedies.
Nice.
Or, you know, you could layer it on whichever is most convenient. They also come in roll-ons, which sometimes is a lot more handy than having to drop oils from the larger bottle. Whatever works for you.
Well, I love oils. I mean, you know, at the center, we
Yeah.
have our own oil line and product line of magical stuff. But if it's one spot, then the oil is great because of the concentrate. What I feel is that if you have an area that needs to be covered more, that when you put the oil in your hands, a certain amount of the oil is going into your pores in your hand.
Sure it is.
Okay? So I think a roll-on, if there's a bigger area to cover, and the spray, I think, is a better way to go.
You could do that. You could also see which concentration works better for you. In the bottle, it's a little more diluted because it has the coconut oil in it already, which, as you know, if you're adding it to a carrier oil, it's going to stay on your skin longer than the straight oil because of evaporation. The oil does evaporate a little bit, but if you're putting a thicker carrier oil on, it's going to last a little longer on your skin.
Tell them, for people that aren't as educated as we are on it, describe a carrier oil.
A carrier oil is like fractionated coconut oil. You could even use olive oil if you had to. Jojoba oil. It's just a thicker oil that you would add in addition to the oils to sort of hold the oils for longer on your skin.
Well, I'm Italian. I sweat olive oil.
You sweat olive oil, I bet you do. Well, that must be what the bugs are biting then, your tasty olive oil skin.
Well, I read, and you know, we've had some flea issue at our house.
Right, so have we.
And so what I read, which is fascinating, that because of my olive skin and having more pheromones, that the fleas are attracted. Like Audrey is not getting bit at all.
Yeah, she doesn't taste as good.
See, if I respond to that, then I get into trouble. Either way, okay?
No, it's true. It also has to do with your blood type.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so, yes, I have a tendency to get bit more than she does.
Right. And I get bit a lot as well, which is pretty annoying.
And by the way, being, you know, hi, Joe. Good to see you. Hi, Audie. The other thing is that because of the being warmer blooded, I am mostly Italian, that the fleas gravitate toward more warm.
Interesting.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
believe me, I have spent time researching and understanding, the concept of fleas and how to treat and all that. And
The concept of fleas, yes. And then I was sharing with you before the show the metaphysical meaning
yes.
of the flea showing up and appearing in your life, and how it gives you time to sort of reflect metaphysically, metaphorically, in a way of where are you being an energy vampire, and maybe where others are being an energy vampire to you. So you take time, you think about that, because a flea is a tiny vampire. A mosquito is a vampire too. They're sucking your blood.
Right.
So, take stock and think about that.
So I already did because when we had the full moon event at our house,
Yes.
a couple of last full moon, and a full moon ritual.
Yep.
You've been to many, done many.
Yes.
You write on a piece of paper what doesn't serve you anymore, what you want to release,
Yes.
and you throw that into the fire. And what I wrote, are you ready for this? I release all my clients that don't want to do the work. So did I know that there were some blood-sucking parasites out there?
Yeah.
No, that's an attorney.
They appear. They
Oh.
do appear. They appear in many places, right? Often those energy vampires can be our own family members, which we kind of have to look out for, you know?
Well, of course.
My
Of
kids
course.
are like, take me here, take me there, because it's
Right.
summer. So, then I'm tired and I need a nap in the afternoon. They
Right.
suck me dry.
Right. So I did that. I recognized that on some level, and at that full moon, that went into the fire.
Good.
And we do have, when we talk about planetary stuff, the second half of the show, we'll talk about the upcoming new moon and stuff like that, but we're not there yet. So the thing that you researched about the flea, that is
Flea.
really
Isn't
fascinating.
that interesting? Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of other things that went along with it, but that was the gist of it. And I was like, it made me chuckle because it was so on point for our show tonight.
Well, the other thing about fleas, too, if you don't know, and if you've never aren't dealing with fleas, then good. The other thing about fleas, too, where you're talking about their bloodsuckers, but fleas also poop.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So now you're getting crapped on by this insect. You're not only getting your blood sucked out, you're getting crapped on.
Oh, gosh, Nick.
So, well,
I guess you better be on guard then.
there we go. On guard.
Yeah, and so within that is keeping your hands clean.
There we go.
With the On Guard, and this is great because it's a spray, and then there's also a gel, and then you can obviously wash your hands too,
Right.
or wash your hands of the poop.
Right. Well, and by the way, the exterminators and the people that come in and treat, they do talk about that.
Yeah, it's important to get that off.
You have to really clean that because, and this is something I studied too, that if you're not careful compared to a mosquito or a spider bite,
Sure.
that if you scratch a flea bite without washing it, that what happens is, because there are those little poops,
Yeah.
okay, that it gets into your skin. And if you go online and you look at flea bites, you see the bite and what looks like a red halo around it. And that's the infection from not getting the bite cleaned out.
Sure, and in that article I read today, it also talked about how when you have so many bites because they've really attacked you, that it actually weakens your immune system and makes you fatigued. So if you're feeling that way because of it, you better address it. You better take care of it. But it does require literal. It's like you need to pay attention. What's
Right.
going on
Yep.
in your environment? You need to clean up. You need to take care of yourself
Right.
and those that might be sucking you dry of energy.
As it were. Talk a little bit about, I've used On Guard. Talk about that. That's a great product.
On Guard is a great product, and I bring these two because this is such a convenient little bottle for hand sanitizer to throw in your purse or in your bag when you're going to the beach, and it smells really great. A lot of times hand sanitizers are a little weird and they have like fragrance and stuff in it, but On Guard smells nice. It's like clove and orange and cinnamon. It's really a great, pleasant smell. And we've used this also, Nick, at the beach. Sometimes in California we get a little tar on the bottom of our feet from the beaches here, unfortunately.
Yep.
This took it right off, which is
Wow.
really cool.
Well, the On Guard, flavor, if you want to call it that, comes in toothpaste
Sure.
and mouthwash.
Toothpaste,
It is
mouthwash.
so good. And I've got to tell you something that about On Guard, the mouthwash. Yes, you are watching Mainstream Metaphysics.
Yes.
We cover more than the physical world on this show. So I had a little bit of a tooth issue going on. It was sensitive, but I went in and did some magical work on it myself, okay? But I used a lot of clove, okay? And I do not have a problem anymore.
Yeah, well, the On Guard toothpaste actually has xylitol in it, which helps rebuild the tooth's enamel, as we now know. So
Wow.
that's a great reason to make the switch in general. In addition to that, it doesn't contain a bunch of crazy toxic things in it, like fluoride, which we know is definitely not good for us.
Well, and we have the On Guard toothpaste at home and at the office.
Yeah, I keep it everywhere.
And people laugh, those of us that are in people's faces all day.
Yeah, we gotta have good breath.
We have to have good breath. So I brush my teeth with the On Guard toothpaste, in the morning before I leave the office, at night before I go to bed, and at least 3 times during the day. And I have a question for you. I have the little spearmint little gels.
Oh yeah, the beadlets. You have the supermint ones.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that come in On Guard?
It comes in On Guard, yes. It also comes in peppermint.
I want to order that.
Yeah,
See?
you've got to get that. Those are great.
Welcome to QVC.
Yeah, no, those are great. Also, they're great if you have throat irritation.
Oh, good.
Because it has the clove in it, which clove gives a numbing effect or a pain reliever. It's a topical analgesic. So another great way to use it.
No, it does taste good. It feels good in the mouth when you use it. And, of course, it does, what we're talking about topically. That's great to find out that it cleans tar off your feet when you go to the beach.
It does, and and off your teeth, right?
Yeah.
I think also we're really fortunate that we have a retail spot at the Newmont Center. So if you are in Agora Hills or in the Los Angeles area and you're like, I need some doTERRA and I don't want to wait for it to ship, you could just come in and buy it from us. We have a retail spot there with products for you to just pick up if you need them. And we keep a little bit of everything. One of my favorite new products that we have, though, is the MetaPower and the MetaPower hydration for recharge. This stuff is great. Now, all of us in this extreme heat are getting a little bit of dehydration, and so we're drinking water, but are we really absorbing it if we're not having a little bit of salt or a little bit of trace minerals along with it?
Sure.
So this helps kind of like expedite that. My kids love the flavor. They're easy to open, and you just pour this into your water bottle and drink, and they're a great flavor.
They are, and we do have the strawberry at the office. It tastes good, and I do feel replenished. Now, one thing about these little pouches, they look like candy from the past that's powder.
Yeah.
They are not. They come out very easily.
Yeah.
So if you get this and you tear it open, be ready to pour it in your water.
Yeah, this one is a liquid, and you just want to shake it up really good and make sure you're getting all of the trace minerals that are in there into your water, so you're getting the full benefit.
Yeah, it's not a powder that just kind of, it's like be ready to go when you open those.
And if you're curious and you're in the office, there are some in the retail area to try. So if you think you want to check it out before you buy it, stop by, grab one, and put it in your water and try it out.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. I have to tell you something. I've been through tons of product lines, okay? Tons, and different people coming through. You got to try this and you got to try that. But I must say, and everything is personal. I love the doTERRA line. I really do.
Same. It's one of those things, like once you really discover a couple of products and you venture into the doTERRA land, you just keep coming back because it's consistent, it's high quality, and it's affordable.
Right.
And it's a good choice for your family.
Right. And by the way, when I say I love the doTERRA line, it's like I buy it and use it. Newmont Center doesn't sell it. It's Salena's retail area.
Sure.
I'm not saying that, hey, Newmont Center is trying to sell you something. It's because it's good. And
it's good. And it's easy to get through me if you would like to.
Please do.
And like I said, we do have it at retail there, which is very rare actually. Not a lot of people have doTERRA retail spots.
Right.
They have you order it and have you have a membership, but we are lucky enough to carry it there. And one of the great products right now that I am super excited about is the sun care line. My kids get sunburned so easily, so we've really had to amp up the sun care at our house. And right now they have this really great little pouch that has all these products in it. So there's a sunscreen for face and body that's 40 SPF. There's also a lip balm that's 20. So, if you also want to make sure your lips don't get sunburned.
And that can happen.
It can happen. It does happen. And then after sun care is something that we are super into, because after you've been in the sun all day, even with sunscreen, you might feel it on your skin a little. And, putting this on to help you recover quicker has been a game changer for us. There's also a spray version of the sunscreen, but this is what comes in this little kit, which is super handy.
Nice.
Yeah.
So at this point in time, and people do make mistakes. They go out in the sun too long. They don't take care of themselves.
Absolutely.
So what is, with the efficiency of these products, what would you say is appropriate time in the sun before it gets to be too much?
That's a good question. I reapply multiple times, but it does depend on if you're going in the water or not.
Sure.
So if my son is going to be running to the ocean and jumping in a couple times, we're coming back and we're reapplying just to be safe, because nobody likes a sunburn. It's no fun.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And people have a tendency to miss like the ears or certain body parts that
they do. This is true. I like to use both combination of the spray, which I don't have the spray here today, but the spray on the body and then the stick, which is nice because you can just put that on your ears, put it across your nose for a little more protection.
What is the scent in the sunscreen products?
How would I describe the scent? That's a good question. It's hard to describe. It smells fresh. It's a good smell. No one's complained about it, that's for sure, but it does have a smell.
Yeah, I grew up way back when with copper tone and the smell of
the coconut and it's not like that, but it does have a good smell. It does have essential oils in it, so you are getting that sort of essential oil smell, which is always pleasant.
Now, what essential oils, if you know this, are more protective when it comes to sunscreen?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure the answer to that. I only know really about afterwards. So I found it really great that they came out with this because we were still buying over-the-counter sunscreen up until last year. And then when this product line came out, I was excited because, sunscreen has a lot of toxic things in it. And often, there was a while my kids were allergic to sunscreen. What are you going to do then? We were really buying high-end sunscreen at one point, $60 a bottle or something to make sure they didn't get a rash from the sunscreen. But this hasn't happened to them with this, which is I'm so thankful for.
Now, we all know, as you said, that when people go in the water, and it is salt water, that they have to reapply. Is there anything about this where maybe it does last longer even if you go in the water?
Not necessarily, it might wash off. So we just reapply to be sure, but it's safe to reapply, so it's not like you're putting on something that you're like, oh, this toxic chemical is going on my skin each time.
Exactly.
And before the after sun care came out, we were making up little spray bottles of peppermint and lavender with water to spray on our skin because of being in the sun too long. But now with this, it's just so nice and it feels so good and it smells good. And then the recovery time has really been reduced.
Oh, that's important.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about mixing oils to spray, is that a cooler?
Yeah, that's a cooling effect.
Oh, because when you come out of the water, and let's say it is a hot day at the beach or your nearby pool, your body gets hot again.
Yeah.
And you go in the water to cool off, but then when you come out of the water, you're warm. So what would you say, peppermint?
Peppermint, mint, peppermint, spearmint, lavender. That's kind of like my favorite combo. It's great for hot flashes too, for ladies who need that. One thing I can tell you about the sun specifically with essential oils is you just want to be mindful of not using things like orange, tangerine, anything in that sort of family of citrus, and then going into the sun, because those are reactive to UV.
Okay.
And so that's for safety. You wouldn't want to put on wild orange and then go out into the sun. That's not a good idea.
Ah.
It can actually cause blisters. So in the summertime, we stay away from citrus oils.
You know, when we talked, recently about the oils and the flea bites, I must tell you that when I've used a combination of peppermint, tea tree, and lavender,
Yeah.
it takes the sting out of the bite.
Right away.
Yeah, it really works.
Right away. And for our dog, we've been using rosemary oil in his shampoo to help keep the fleas away. And it helps quite a bit. And then he smells good too.
It smells like, who's cooking?
He's cooking, yeah.
How's the dog like it?
He likes it. He sneezes a little, and then he's fine. But
Because the reason it sounds funny, but the reason I ask that is because animals have sensitive noses.
Sure. He's quite sensitive. In fact, there are some oils specifically okay to use with pets. I don't really have a list with me, but that is one that is safe for dogs. In fact, you might find it in flea repellent pet shampoo. So,
well, one of the things that's really important that I learned about doTERRA, a long time ago, and when you're talking about using this on a pet, cat or dog, what do animals want to do? They want to lick.
Sure.
Now, the thing about a lot of the oils is they are safe to ingest.
Some of them are. Some of them you wouldn't ingest.
Right.
And it does say it on the bottle if
Yes,
it's
it
safe
does.
to ingest. And, you can also put it in a capsule and swallow it that way, a veggie cap, so that if you don't like the taste, but you want the benefit as well, because it is plant material that is compressed into the oil form.
Right.
So you're getting that benefit. And it's something like 32 tea bags is equivalent to 1 drop of peppermint oil. So that's a
Jeez.
strong drop of peppermint
Wow.
oil, like one of those
Wow.
little beadlets we're talking about.
Right.
I have drank it in water, and it's like, woo, so strong. So,
Yeah, I, a while back, one of my clients, something was going on, and I said, here, have one of these beadlets.
Yeah.
And she's like,
yes, it wakes you right up,
Right.
clears your sinuses, clears your palate out, and gets you going there with some fresh breath for sure.
Right.
It's also great if your stomach is upset.
yeah. Well, when I would, back in the day of doing like all day psychic fairs, or back when I would have a booth at the Whole Life Expo, I would have spearmint oil with me and just breathe that
Smelling it.
in, and it would clear the brain.
Oh, yeah, it helps a lot. Rosemary's great for that, too. It's very good and stimulating for the brain.
See, if I smell rosemary oil, I'm going to want something to eat. Being Italian.
Get your pasta ready.
Yeah, the chicken.
Well, you could substitute rosemary oil if you were out of actual rosemary for cooking as well.
Really?
You would just want to really dilute it.
Yeah, exactly, because it is concentrated. And I've, recently when I've been using the oils, a few drops of each,
Yep.
Creating a little puddle,
Yeah.
in my hand, it does go a long way.
It does go a long way,
Really
especially if
does.
you're adding in like the carrier oil like we talked about.
Definitely. So, so when it comes to, what's bugging you, and if they are bugs, there are a lot of different options, that we have here with the doTERRA line that can either be a preventative or relieve the pain and the sting
Sure.
of the bite. And also, they also help to heal the bite faster.
Yes,
too.
absolutely.
So if, it takes a number of days for a bug bite to heal. But what would you say of all the oils, which one is the one, let's forget about itching and stinging, which is the one that's going to help heal that bite faster?
Heal the bite faster? Well, you're mostly looking for that sort of antiseptic, which would be like your tea tree oil. But
There you go.
once you've moved on from that, lavender would be another great one for healing. And then the ultimate healer, in my opinion, is frankincense. You really can't go wrong with any of those oils. But as far as like healing a skin wound, frankincense would be the one. For sure.
Awesome. Aside from bug bites, for a long time, people have said if they've had a headache, that rubbing some lavender oil on the temples helps relieve the headache. Why is that? What does lavender oil do?
Well, first of all, right on your temples is a throbbing little artery.
Right.
So that's why you're feeling that pressure there. So the lavender is actually going in transdermal absorption through your skin and calming down that area. I believe it is also a vasodilator, so helping open up that constricted vessel. But in my opinion, if you have a headache, I would put on peppermint. I like peppermint on the back of my head. I rub it on the top of my head and then smelling it. And that, in my opinion, is going to help a headache a lot faster. Yeah.
One of the things that I learned years ago, especially in coaching softball in the summer, especially like when Milena played travel and we're going to Lancaster and Palmdale and all these places that are just desert. And believe it or not, this really worked. So we would keep bottles of water in the cooler in ice water, okay? And when I would go out to coach the bases in the sun, I would take the bottle of water and stick it in my waistband in the small of my back. And that actually will cool your body down.
Sure, because that's closer to your core.
Right. So little tricks like that work. So when it comes to, as I said on the teaser, what's bugging us, there's a lot of things that are going on with people right now. People are kind of buggy, all right?
Yeah.
And last night in the sentient healing class, they tried to create a tangent. I was like, oh, no, they would never do that, right?
Your students?
Yeah. Well, they're educated. They know what questions to ask, especially Mrs. Newmont. And they asked, what is the Pluto retrograde doing to us? Why are people angry, driving crazy? All of that. And it's actually a combination of things, and I know you've got notes and I do. But the but is, and it gets, complicated, that Pluto and Saturn and Neptune, oh my, right? So today, this morning in the wee hours on the West Coast, Neptune went retrograde. Okay? And this is going to be retrograde until December the 7th. And Neptune deals with everything that is very obscure. I mean, Neptune rules the 12th house of astrology, which is mental health, which I also like to call the dungeon of the zodiac. and I posted earlier today on Facebook, so you can read, everything I wrote. But when I call it the dungeon of the zodiac, the 12th house, that's secret, sorrow, self-undoing, institutions, karma, addictions, hypnosis.
Ooh.
Yes, it's all the deep stuff of our mind and where we go into. And so when Neptune goes retrograde, and here's what I wrote, okay, what you should be doing during Neptune retrograde. And I did write should. I did that. I wrote it, okay? So you don't have to should all over yourself. What?
Oh, gosh.
Well, all right. So 1, pay attention to your dreams. 2, be kind to your heart. 3, work on healthy boundaries. And 4, use your imagination productively. In other words, with Neptune, the ruler of Pisces in the 12th house, that's where illusion and disillusion comes in. Now, what you want to avoid during Neptune retrograde, don't get lost in your dreams. In other words, stay connected to reality. Don't let yourself be a doormat, all right? Don't spend time with energy vampires. See, I put this together earlier. I had no idea you were going to talk about the fleas.
You better get rid of those fleas then.
Yeah, damn straight. And don't get lost in fantasy. And I wrote, get your head on straight, laughingly, and more important, laugh. So Neptune retrograde, if you let it, will mess with your head. Now, this week, this coming Friday, the 5th, in the late afternoon on the West Coast, we get a new moon in Cancer. So this is where we want to look at our relationships on our emotional life, personal life, and also take a look at behavior with family members, what do things look like on the home front, literally. And this is a time to move forward with new emotional patterns, all right? Now, because the moon rules Cancer, and this is a Cancer sun, Cancer moon, this can be a very emotionally driven pattern that we are setting forward. And remember, a full moon is for releasing, a new moon is setting new patterns forward. So this week, start to think about what you want to do in a productive way moving forward emotionally, and if your home life needs to be fixed, if your house needs to be fixed, this new moon is where you set intentions on that. All right. Then, oh my God, and well, you've got notes on Pluto retrograde just like I do.
Yeah.
What do you want to say? Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth.
Death and rebirth, transformation. So, it's a good time when it's retrograde to really self-reflect, right? And look at where we can better transform our lives, right? Is there a rebirth that needs to happen? Is there somewhere in your life where you need to let something go and move forward without it? We talk a lot in our practice about changing timelines, and, when you're in that place of switching your timeline, are you doing that same thing over and over again and it doesn't serve you, and you're bringing that into your future from your now, and you were doing it yesterday, you're doing it now? Of course that's going to happen tomorrow too. This is a good time to sort of let that all go and create a new habit, something that's better for you, and have a complete rebirth if that is, what you need in your life.
Because Pluto will be retrograde until November.
Yeah, November, a long time.
So because Pluto basically moves 3 steps forward, 1 step backward over the course of a year, okay? Because it moves so slow. Now, the question that the students had, Salena, is why are people so angry during Pluto retrograde?
Yeah, well, they're really having to look at themselves in a different way than they ever had before, and they may not like what they see. And so it angers them, and in addition to that, I have an oil for it if they're feeling anger.
What is that?
Well, we have peace.
Oh.
We have adaptive. And
yeah.
one I like to give a lot out when I'm doing treatment is forgive. Because often we need to forgive ourselves, and we forget to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Pluto rules the 8th house, which is the Scorpio house, and the complexities of the 8th house are really bizarre because it's a lot of topics that don't relate to each other. It's the concept of other people's money, meaning your investments or a partner's money, real estate, stocks, lawsuits, settlements, and then it's sex.
Oh, gosh.
8th house is sex. It's surgery. It's the scientific side of ritual, all occult practices. It's anything that is sort of covert and underground.
Okay.
Pluto in Scorpio, the 8th house, is very strange. It's accidents. It's public conveyances. So, and then it has to do with where is Pluto retrograde in your chart compared to the natal Pluto. And before Pluto was discovered, Mars, the god of war, ruled the 8th house.
Okay.
So one of the things that I try to tell people is that with Pluto retrograde, just look at what needs to be repaired.
Yeah, make your fixes, and we do that a lot in our work, help people sort of repair. One way I like to do that is going in and doing what we call hypnodrama. Yeah, it's really helpful where we can kind of role play these scenarios and help them get through them with a better projected outcome than maybe what wasn't working for them.
In the clients that you're working with right now, what would you say that people are the most angry about? Yeah. What is the, as therapists, we say, what is the presenting complaint?
I would say probably relationships.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and what their role is in them. And the theme lately has been response versus react. So people are highly triggered and just, reacting out of anger instead of using their emotional intelligence and pausing for reflection, introspection, and deciding a response that's created out of intelligent emotional place.
Sure.
Now, that takes time. It is a muscle. It isn't that easy to do all the time. But if you pause and consider what you might say in a better formatted way, instead of just lashing out, and,
Right.
Your relationships might do a little bit better.
Well, here's the thing for them to remember. When Pluto was discovered in 1930, it was discovered around the time of the discovery of plutonium, which goes in atomic bombs.
Right.
So if Pluto's energy goes sideways, then what we're going to have is, a lot of volatility. So be really careful, as Salena is saying, think before you speak, or otherwise there's going to be this mushroom cloud.
Sure. It really invites you to sort of, let go of that security blanket that you've been holding on to. And, I don't want to deal with this. Well, this might be the time to put that down and let that go and form some real security from a better place.
Well, why would you say that people would say, like, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to look at that.
Well, they love to ignore things.
They dissociate.
They don't want to deal. They don't want to know the truth. And it's a hard one to face. And sometimes, a lot of our time is spent calling them out on their BS.
Right.
And really saying, look, you created this. You need to look at this. And the only way that you're going to feel better is if you go through it and get on the other side.
And that's a challenge, too, because when you're dealing with family issues, as you do,
Right,
I do, Audrey
absolutely.
does, Dr. Palmer does, I have a situation where there's one of the kids in this family has been coming for therapy, but one of the parents refuses to.
Yeah.
And the
that's tough.
irony is, and there's a lot of anger in these relationships, and what this one parent can't see is the kid's behavior is a mirror for this parent.
Sure. Where did they learn it? And then we talk a lot about family systems and how that has come through the generations of their family. And it's hard to see when you're in it. I think sometimes age plays a role in it too. Like, you're from a different generation than your kid. And so the world appears a little different, and we've been through things differently than they have.
Sure.
Especially now, this younger generation, they've been through quite a bit.
Yeah, they have.
They really have. Yeah.
As you and I and Audrey and many are HMI graduates, dealing with this, another family, the father was talking about his son that's 15 that's having these explosions, okay? Yeah. And I said, well, look, I don't want you to take this as blame, but from 9 to 15 is where the children learn relationship behavior from the father.
Right.
And I said, you have demonstrated a lot of volatility in front of your kids, very Plutonian.
Right.
All right. And so this is learned behavior. And I had to repeat, I'm not blaming you, but this is learned behavior.
Sure.
He's got this directly from observing you. All right. So, what's interesting about this is that, and no one out there would know who this is. This is a family in another state. They're coming next week for
in
days,
person.
To our place and working with several different people.
Okay, well, good for them. They must really want to solve their problem.
Well, they're realizing that the monster in the dungeon is banging on the trapdoor so hard, the bolts are starting to come out of the trapdoor.
Be careful. The fire-breathing dragon might come through.
Well, no, they're going to get the fire-breathing dragon,
Is you?
a.k.a. Merlin. Okay?
All right.
I'm the one that summons.
This is good.
They're actually very nice people. They just have to
Yeah.
learn how to reparent.
Well,
Definitely.
nice people make mistakes too. It just
No
happens.
kidding.
It just happens. We're not perfect. We all need adjustments and fine-tuning in our lives personally and in our
Absolutely.
parent lives as well.
Right. And we're always learning because as the world evolves, we're having to evolve too to new circumstances and situations
Gosh.
when we were born, there just was not this huge manual that just told you, when this comes up, deal with this. This is how you do this. And so for us as therapists, we're having to look at all these things and take what we've learned, literally, and then there's a certain amount in this evolutionary process where there's a certain amount we have to do on the fly.
Yeah, quickly. And, then what I've noticed a lot in my practice is there's these kids coming forward now that have all these clair gifts that are developing really fast. And if you are a parent that can't keep up, they're going to need help with that, because they are receiving information that maybe the parent doesn't even understand or can't feel.
Yes, and I've seen that. This is going on. I don't know how to deal with this. And it's like, okay, I can help you deal with this. Jeez. So when it comes to, we're on the topic of anger and Pluto retrograde. So in hypnosis, and I understand hypnodramas, what do you try to do what do you say or do in the hypnotic process to help diffuse the anger?
Well, I do a lot of what we call emotional neutrality, where we take them into a hypnotic state and we do guided meditation or relaxation, and we get into the hypnotic state and we try to we do neutralize the emotional triggers that come along with that. Like when you feel the rise, let's reduce that. Let's turn the volume knob down on that. Let's get it to a place of neutrality so that you can have a little more peace and bliss and not be so reactive. So then when situations that make you angry come up, that sort of little button that was installed before just isn't there anymore. So, not everyone is responsive to it. There are those who take more work than others. Sometimes that happens in a couple sessions. Sometimes it takes multiple sessions to reprogram that.
You and Audrey went to HMI 10 years after I did.
Yep.
And I got to study with John and Alex Kappas.
Yeah, that's so cool.
But were you trained? See, I am asking you a question right here live on the show.
Oh, okay.
Were you trained on finger raising and arm rigidity for anger?
Yeah, we do that.
Oh,
we do
good.
That sometimes, it's rare that I use that. One of the things that I have found is often people are going into hypnosis the second they sit down, just when you're talking to them, because they expect you to just be putting them in hypnosis immediately. So it's interesting. I'm looking for things going on with them to see where they're at. Do I need to go a step further? Do I need to deepen them more so we can sort of get to those subconscious issues or not?
It's interesting, and clients have, misunderstood this. When people come in for hypnotherapy, and if people have never done it before, they don't know what to expect. But sometimes people think that they're supposed to come in and be in hypnosis for like 45, 50 minutes.
Yeah, not necessarily.
No. Yeah,
Not necessarily.
I remember when I studied with John and Alex, they really said half an hour max, 15 minutes.
Sure. I think the longer sort of inductions or hypnosis sessions that I have done have dealt with past life regression, and that is usually a little bit longer because we're talking back and forth about what they're experiencing, and often very interesting things come through.
Definitely.
We record those sessions, but just in a normal session it might be a few minutes, 20 minutes tops.
Sure.
They think it's minutes though. They're like, wow, It's been 2 minutes. I'm like, well, actually look at the clock. It's been 20 minutes.
Right. Well, and a lot of times they think they don't go out, and they do.
Sure. That's a whole other thing.
Right. It's like, what time is it? Well, there's something I learned way back when it comes to hypnosis, and it's this phrase. Every minute in the hypnotic state is like an hour of deep, restful sleep.
Sure, they feel really great when they wake up. It's like a quick little zip out of time, and there are certain things that we can say without giving too much language to help them lose track of time perception, which I definitely have to put in for some people because they just are so resistant. But, once you start having them lose track of time and place and space and where they're at, that's the sweet spot right there.
I've had people say, "Oh, do I have to get up out of the chair?"
Yeah.
I said, "Well, I don't know that you want the next client laying on top of you."
Yeah, it's time to go. Goodbye. Yeah. Often I'm rushing them away. I'm like, okay, you've got 5 minutes. You've got to go now.
Yeah. That's like just time management. So, anything else with diffusing anger, in a time like this?
Well, there are things that I do in my sessions when someone comes in that I know is having anger issues. Often I sometimes even smudge them outside before I let them into the building to sort of diffuse that a little bit before they come and sit down. And then I offer them a drop of an oil right away so that they can, calm down before they start to talk. And then depending on whatever it is that we're going to do, I'm going to give you a drop of balance while we're talking so you can sort of get that smell. If there is something that I know is really bothering them, I'm going to pick an oil
fresh.
according to what they're going through, the opposite effect, to sort of bring them down a little before we even start talking.
Sure.
I like balance. It's kind of neutral. It's great for everyone. But forgive is one I go to a lot. We use peace a lot in my practice. Console if they've been crying a lot or really sad and they can't control their emotions. But if they're feeling anxious or upset, I go for adaptive every time. There's the emotions oils, which are great for it. But to be honest with you, almost any oil is going to work because they're going to be sensory switched to smell right away.
What's interesting is, too, that, a lot of people come in angry if they are running late for their appointment because they got stuck in traffic. And, it is what it is. If they lose time off their session because of schedules, that is what happens.
Yeah.
But, it's become sort of a joke, and I do mean it as a joke, that when people say, oh, there was traffic, we live in Los Angeles.
There's always traffic.
That's to say there's traffic is redundant.
Right.
It just is.
Yeah.
Now if people move here from another state, they have to talk about the culture shock.
Yeah, well, I teach my kids if we're always early, we're never late.
Right. Well, that's what we used to say with the younger kids in coaching softball.
Yeah.
If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're late, you're running.
Yeah, well, this is that's a tough lesson. They probably wouldn't like to run too much in this heat.
Yep. And they learned. Now, another thing I want to bring into this, and I'm going to really condense this, is wait a minute. I have the woulda, coulda, shouldas of Pluto retrograde.
Well, you forgot Saturn retrograde also,
I'm going to talk
right?
about that. That's
I
right.
mean, goodness.
That's right on the top there. Okay. So what to do, and I eliminated should, what to do that's advisable in Pluto retrograde, explore your inner self. Pluto is the planet that's the furthest away the sun, so it doesn't get any deeper than that. Ready for this one? Because we didn't compare notes before we did the show.
Nope, we separately did this.
Discover healthy outlets for anger.
Right.
Refinish something. Don't you have to restart before you refinish? Let things slide.
Okay.
Put some oil on and just slide.
Slide right through life. Yeah.
Now, what you don't do in Pluto retrograde, give into rage, and you were talking about that, going straight from zero to explode. Let go of being self-righteous, all right? Don't hold on to things too long. You were talking about forgive earlier.
Forgive, yes.
And then do not be self-destructive. With Pluto retrograde, you can actually step on your own landmines.
That's a theme lately, too.
Yep. Well, there is a lot of self-sabotage going on where people are cutting off their nose to spite their face.
Absolutely.
And it's like, because in Pluto retrograde, there is a component, like there is righteous anger, which is a really good thing. But what I'm seeing in people right now is where people get locked onto something, and even if they are correct, they just have to be right, and right to everybody's detriment. And you can be right, but you can be dead right too. So be careful about, in Pluto retrograde, that insistence of I'm right.
And pushing everyone away in the process, and suddenly you're lonely.
Right, exactly. Now, Saturn retrograde, Saturn isn't as deep as Pluto or Neptune.
Sure.
Saturn, like Jupiter and Mars, is one of the interpersonal planets. Saturn rules our environment, our interaction with the environment. It rules the 10th house of astrology, which is Capricorn, which is public appearance, career, reputation, success, what you show to the public.
It's also time, right?
Yes, and that glyph for Saturn is the sickle of Kronos, the god of time.
Sure.
So to boil it all down, what I say about Saturn retrograde, yes, and business could slow down a little bit in Saturn retrograde, but Saturn retrograde is a time for adjustments.
Right.
Take it back to the drawing board, have all the facts, okay? Don't panic, all right? Because Saturn retrograde buys time. Then look at everything that you need to, and then go forward, and Saturn will go direct in November, mid-November. Now, when Saturn's retrograde, like for instance, if you filed a tax extension and it doesn't go direct till November, you've got all the way until October 15th to file a return. Take a step back and review, and then move forward. Like for instance, we're talking about some major events at the Newmont Center.
Sure.
These plans are there,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to sit there and go, okay, let's just do it. We got to sit down and look at all the plans and how we want to enact this, along with all the players involved. But if anyone comes to you during Saturn retrograde and says, okay, you got to do this, you have to do this, or else you're not going to go, fine, don't. And I put that into action. So, and you knew us back then when the office was still on the west side on Olympic Boulevard.
Yep.
And the lease was coming up. We were in a combination of a Saturn and Mercury retrograde. And they were trying to shove a new lease under my nose and said, I'm not signing this yet. So what happened was, then I went, when the planets turned direct, to sign, and they said, we thought you weren't going to sign, so when your lease is up, someone else is committed to that.
Oh, wow.
That really happened. When I told Audrey that, when I went home, because we were living in Agora then, she went, what?
That's wild.
And I went,
How
well.
rude.
Yeah, how rude. And so when I looked at it, I see we have 3 minutes left. When I thought about it, I went, you know what, this happened for a reason.
Sure.
And that's how the center expanded and got moved to Agora Hills.
Did you a favor, sort of.
Big favor.
Shake it up, make
Big favor.
make a big change.
So what the moves to make in Saturn retrograde? Be extra, extra, extra responsible.
Sure.
So I said that 3 times.
Responsible.
Revisit old goals. Just because it didn't happen doesn't mean it can't still happen. Learn lessons. Be willing to learn. Okay? And plan for a little bit of a break. Take your foot off the gas a bit
Sure.
in Saturn retrograde. Now, in Saturn retrograde, what you don't want to do, or what's not good for Saturn retrograde. First of all, don't be selfish.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't let laziness or complacency take over, or
Yeah.
apathy. Don't ignore the obvious. Okay? If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And then the other thing in Saturn retrograde, which is the most important, don't blame other people for what's going on.
Sure. Take accountability.
Because Saturn is the planet of karma.
And my note says this is a good time for you to grow up.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, because Saturn is Capricorn, which is maturity.
So if you're feeling immature, there are places to grow up.
Right.
Look at that.
Right. And that's it, whether you're 20 or 40 or 60, whatever it is. It is a time to grow up. But Saturn retrograde, my experience is, it's actually a good thing because it makes you think. And it will counterbalance the Pluto retrograde, where people are kind of volatile and just exploding.
Yeah.
And the Saturn retrograde, the wisdom of Saturn goes, wait a minute. Wait a minute here.
Slow down.
Exactly.
Keep your head on straight.
Exactly. Well, yeah, that's a Neptune retrograde. Okay. If we're almost at the end, if people want a session with you, want to buy doTERRA,
Sure.
how do they get a hold of you?
Well, I have a website where they can book a phone consultation with me for free to talk about any subject that they're interested in, including oils or my services. And that is heal.me/SalenaColp.com, and it's up on the screen now for you to see.
Sure.
And at the bottom of the screen, when you get to my page, just click on that free phone consultation. I'll book time to get with you and talk about whatever it is that you need from me and my list of services.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. I have to tell you something. I don't think there was a moment of dead air
Well,
on tonight's
probably
show.
not. We could have kept going for 30 more minutes.
Well, we had a lot of good things to talk about tonight,
Yeah.
and it was. I'm really glad you came on because
thanks for having me. I appreciate
you
it.
are welcome. Well, you are a member of the Newmont Center, and love having you on the show.
Thanks.
And because you know a lot of things about a lot of different topics.
Sure.
And hi, Karen. Thanks for watching. Oh, I really appreciate you. And yes, and you can see Salena if on a private appointment at the Newmont Center.
Yep.
You know, she has space there.
Yep.
So
Yep.
thank you. And for those of you, please tune in and watch Audrey tomorrow. I'm sure it'll be fascinating of what she's going to share with you. Next week, the ladies from the psychic panel will be on next Tuesday. And the following week will be Brandon Fravel, the trainer, and how to deal with the heat if you do work out. And again, I'm Nick Newmont. This has been Mainstream Metaphysics with Salena Colp. As always, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. I will see you next week. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
This is Mainstream Metaphysics with your host, Nick Newmont.